All right. Hello, everybody. It is 4:30 and it is July 5th and it is Committee of the Whole. I'm Kat Martinez. I'm conducting today. All council members are present. The mayor, GL, Recorder Brooke, all here, the whole team. To start out, we have approval of the minutes, Committee of the Whole, June 7th, 2022. Are there any corrections or comments? And if not, I'll take a motion.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of the Committee of the Whole of June 7th, 2022.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Excellent. Next up, we have two discussion items today. We'll start out with Parks and Rec Department report with Kim Sorensen. Hi, Kim.
You know me, I always go over my time allotment, so. And I think I have 30 minutes, which is more than I will need. So, Parks and Recreation, I've put together a report of items that I thought would be of interest to each of you. I know some of you are seasoned council members and some are new. So as we go through, I'll go through each division and maybe highlight some of the things that we've done recently and some of the areas that would be good for you to know. But as we go through, please feel free to stop me and ask me whatever questions you might have. So Parks and Recreation is made up of 7 different divisions. That includes parks, recreation, cultural arts, facility maintenance, cemetery, senior recreation, and of course the golf course. And the order there is for no reason at all. They're each as important as the other. Our Parks Division, we'll start with our Parks Division. Parks Division maintains 270 acres of property, a variety of uses from natural areas along the Jordan River to very active athletic fields and soccer fields and tennis courts, pickleball courts, etc., and buildings. The Parks Division has 14 full-time employees, and they try and hire about 20 to 30 part-time employees. This year, Bruce Holyoke is our park superintendent, and he reports that he's been successful hiring part-time employees this year, which is much better than it was last year. Some facts about the Parks Division, other facts, the Jordan River Trail in 2021 had 276,000 trail counts. This year we are, since January, as of last week, we're at about 120,000. So we believe we're going to have more trail counts this year, which is.
Kim, how do you guys keep track of that?
So we have a trail counter.
Okay.
That is hidden down along the Jordan River, and it counts people as they walk past. But the trail counter is moved to different areas every couple of weeks, and we count the number of people that are using the trail. And I say it's interesting that it's increasing because with COVID we had a huge increase in people using the Jordan River Trail. So we believe that one positive that came out of COVID is they discovered the trail and they continue to use that. So irrigation systems. So our irrigation system in just the parks, they have 1,400 different valves, 12,000 sprinkler heads. Now I tell you this because we are doing all that we can to conserve water and use less water. But you're going to hear, as a council person, you're going to hear from your constituents telling you that there is a sprinkler on in the park. As you can imagine, with 1,400 valves, or 1,400 valves, we have valves that stick on occasionally and valves that come on at different times and sprinklers that break. So we are doing the best we can, but understand when you have constituents complain about water, if it's a one-time thing, it's probably a broken valve or valve that's stuck on.
Kim?
Yes.
I'm not sure if you'll go into this in your presentation, but do you know how many native plants or acreage we have of native plants within
I
our
don't
parks?
have that for you, but I can
Or even perennials?
tell you that along the Jordan River, we have several areas of native landscape. In fact, the Jordan River, other than around the pavilions and the grass area, everything that we plant down there, we focus on native plants. I'm going to guess we have about 30 to 40 acres along the Jordan River that's native planting. Over the last 20 plus years, we have been very aggressive at removing the noxious weeds and plants along the Jordan River, which basically includes Russian olive, chamorus, which are trees, Phragmite, which is the plant that grows in water and looks kind of like a cattail, but it's not, and then the bullhead or the thistles, the little thorny things along the river. If you drive in Murray's section of the river with your bikes, you're not likely to get a flat tire, but as soon as you go south or north, you are. So, volunteers, in 2021, we had 2,667 volunteer hours. We use a lot of volunteers in the Parks Department. You can see up here, there's a picture of volunteers working down at the Nature Center and along the Jordan River. Now, our volunteers, the interesting thing is our volunteers have changed over the last few years. It used to be that we would get a lot of small groups, Boy Scout type groups. We're not getting them because the dynamics of Boy Scouts has changed in our area. We are now getting a lot of larger groups like the Larry Miller Day of Service that we had about a month ago in Murray Park. So. Graffiti removal. The Parks Division maintains and removes graffiti throughout the entire city. What happens here is if you have graffiti on your property, whether it be a residential, business, or government property, you can go online to Murray's website and plug in a report of concern. If it's graffiti, the parks gets a email. Police departments receive an email, and the mayor's office receive an email. Police department will know that they need to do a report quickly because our policy is that we be removed with graffiti within 24 hours of getting the notice, if possible. And most of the time that is possible. So the police department will investigate, do their reports, and we'll go out and remove it. So. Pavilions, as you know, the last few years we've renovated the pavilions in Murray Park. Throughout the park system, we have 12 pavilions. Last year we had 1,242 reservations in the pavilions. We are definitely going to exceed that this year. The pavilions are very popular. The new pavilions especially are reserved every weekend and most weeknights. So that's been a good improvement or addition.
How many are not finished, or are they all finished?
They're all finished.
Okay.
Yep, some are older than others, but we renovated the 5 in Murray Park. Like I say, we finished Pavilion 5 about a year ago. Mm-hmm. The only one that I would say that's, and I wouldn't call it unfinished, it's not there, is the Armory, which will be an indoor facility that we've talked about. There's a new playground that was just opened up a few weeks ago in the east end of the park, just west of Parkside Elementary. This is a very popular playground already. It's a traditional playground with a lot of slides. If you haven't seen it and you have children or grandchildren, take them over there. It has the widest slide made for this type of playground. Actually, three children can go down at one time and race or whatever they want to do. And with our pavilions, you'll notice our pavilions, we've now put a poured-in-place surface, a rubber surfacing rather than wood chips. We started this several years ago. Our Parks and Recreation Advisory Board voted that we do this as long as council would approve funding, and you have. It's costly. This poured-in-place surface on this playground was about $50,000. But it'll last the life of a playground, which is about 20-25 years. And it provides better impact resistance if a child falls than any other surfacing. So been
Well,
successful.
and also with the wind, the wood
Well,
chips.
yeah, wood chips. You don't take the wood chips home in your shoes. And
Uh-huh. Yep.
the other thing
Are
to,
you going to put a cover over them? You know, the ones that they look like a triangle to shade the slide or anything like
so
that?
we don't have plans to put a cover over the existing playgrounds that we have. Covers are quite costly. We are, if you remember, we do have a new playground budgeted just between the park office and the park center, where the swing sets are. That'll be a tot playground for younger children. We'll look at a cover there, but it depends on funding. It's costly. And then the other thing to remember is the port in place is a lot easier for wheelchairs to maneuver onto the playgrounds than wood chips. You may remember that we came to the council several months ago about new electric equipment for the Parks Department. We have purchased that equipment. It's now in use. We purchased a lawnmower, a push lawnmower. Well, when I say push, it's self-propelled. Edgers, weed eaters, line trimmers, and then pack blowers. They are working okay in some areas. We're using the equipment in our special areas. That is a crew that goes out and mows small areas that we own throughout the city. They're working well there. The blowers are working well in our pavilions. People that are cleaning the pavilions. They're not working so well in the parks maintenance, and the reason for that is we've got about a 2-hour life on batteries. The 2 crews that take them with them have the batteries with them and are able to switch out. But it's a good start, and we'll continue to look for new equipment and innovations with electric equipment. So that'll be coming. Next one is our recreation division. This division has 6 full-time employees. They have 350 volunteers that work throughout the year, and then 1,000 professional service, or 100 professional service providers, and they are people that do fitness instruction, coaches, and pickleball officials, tennis coaches, etc. The recreation division has 249 programs that they're currently running, 6,200 adults, and about just over 11,000 children. Of our programs, 59% are Murray residents and 41% are non-residents.
Kim, my understanding is you're now charging for pickleball.
Well, you're talking about reserving the pickleball?
Yeah, so I mean,
So,
it costs
good
to
question.
play pickleball now.
Our pickleball courts, when we first opened them, were first come, first serve. And what we found, we had a lot of residents and users complaining that they couldn't get on the courts. We had groups going down and taking over the courts and not running leagues, but running their own, having their friends and the people that they wanted to play with come down and monopolizing the courts. So what we do now is we have an online reservation system where people can reserve courts, and they'll have a court available when they go down. We're not reserving all of them. I think we're reserving 4 of them each night, and the cost, I think the cost is pretty minimal. It's like $10 for an hour, and that seems to be working well. Most people are liking that policy. In fact, the only people that we've heard that didn't like it, and this was early on, was those people that had gone down and camped out and wanted to use them for their own events.
So it is.
It's
it-
working.
It does, and it does cost now.
Yeah, it does well in the evenings. During the daytime hours, we weren't having that problem, so we're not reserving them in the early mornings and during the daytime.
So on the website, it says Murray residents pay for 2 hours for $5
Okay,
and $10 for non-residents for 2 hours.
So it's pretty
So
inexpensive.
that's pretty inexpensive.
It probably costs us more money to take the reservation and put the reservation sign up, but it's giving our residents the opportunity to use the courts when they want to.
Thanks.
See, what was that? Park Center. So the Park Center membership scans in 2021, we had 140,124. Currently, we have 5,583 memberships sold. Daily admissions in 2021 was 56,846. And the Park Center, one thing that we continue to do is we're continuing to get those people that left during COVID. So even though it's been, I don't know, a year or so since we've opened back up, some people came back quickly and others are a little slower, but we continue to get the members back that we had pre-COVID. Our Murray Aquatic Center, the outdoor pool, in 2021, we had 25,502 daily admissions. If the weather holds out, that's going to be up this year too. The outdoor pool has been very popular. In fact, we've had many days where we've had to not allow people to come in because our capacity is met, which our capacity is 400 people. So. The Aquatic Center is open Memorial Weekend through Labor Day. Now, this is on the weekends. What we do is we follow the Murray School District calendar. So if they go longer in Memorial Weekend, if they don't come out of school right up until after Memorial Weekend, we'll open for Memorial Weekend, close on the weekdays, and open for the weekends, and then remain open as long as school's out, which also holds true with Labor Day. So some information, I talked a little bit about the memberships returning. Another thing that happened during COVID is another program that you see on here is Evolution Swim Lessons. So we opened up for swim lessons after COVID before anybody else opened, definitely before Salt Lake County Park Centers opened. And in order to limit close contact, we started a program and we called it Evolution Swim Lessons. And what this is one-on-one swim lessons with a group of children. So we'll set them in different areas of the pool, and the instructor will spend 5 or 10 minutes, whatever is needed, with each child one-on-one, teaching them swimming, and then move to the next child, and then the child that they just taught will have time to practice. And of course, we have lifeguards watching the group as a whole. This worked out really well. We found that children were learning to swim faster. We were spending less time with each child rather than having, if you've had children do swim lessons in the past, you line up along the edges and they show you how to swim, and then you swim across the pool, and then you do it again. So we're continuing to do this even after COVID, and I'm told that other park centers and swim lesson people are following suit and trying it as well. The biggest programs in recreation are soccer and junior jazz. Each of them have over 750 participants. Track is growing. We currently have 320 registered in our track program. Another thing with recreation that you should be aware of is we're hiring 15-year-olds to work in recreation. They are working as sports officials. There's limited hours that they can work, and they need to be done. I think it's by 7 p.m. on weekdays and limitations on weekends. So, but it's working. We're able to hire enough to cover soccer and junior jazz. That's cool. Next one is our facilities division. This division has 4 employees, 4 full-time employees, and 30 part-time custodial employees. They take care of the Aquatic Center, City Hall, fire stations, the Park Center, Police Training Center, Public Services, and Senior Recreation Center. So they are busy. If you look here, the total request year to date as of right now is 306. You'll see that 69% of them were from Parks and Recreation. So oftentimes I'll get a question of why is the facilities division under the Parks and Recreation? That doesn't make sense. But if you look at the number of requests and what they're doing, Parks and Recreation takes the majority of that. And I can answer why that is really, really quickly with one word: swimming pools. Swimming pools are a lot of maintenance. So. Some of the projects that the buildings division did this year, a couple of key projects that I would just want to tell you about, and then I'll explain why I'm telling you that. One was the building public services roof started to leak, and we found that it couldn't be repaired. It needed to be replaced. Another one was our Murray Aquatic Center. You can see on the left side, when we took the plaster off, there was some huge holes under the pool. We were losing approximately 50,000 gallons of water a day. So both of these repairs were done rather quickly, and they were done under, if you remember, in the CIP facilities division, they have an emergency fund. I think that fund's about $1 million right now. And that's because we know there are several areas in the facilities division that may happen overnight, and to come back to the council and ask you to appropriate funding for that takes time. So both of these repairs were done under the emergency funds, and we were able to open the pool on time. We were able to save a lot of water, and then the roof at the public services was also done under the emergency funds. The real reason that we set that up a few years ago was there's 2 handlers at the Park Center, one in the competitive pool and one in the erected leisure pool. That air handler is about $500,000 if it goes down. And again, we don't want, it's best not to have to go through the process of allocating funds to get that done. We can take care of it quickly. The other thing that the building maintenance division has done is you may have heard that I think it was the Lions Club was closed for a little over a month this year because of a pump that went down. Several years ago, we realized that when a pump goes down at the pool, we lose 3 or 4 days of pool time waiting for the pump. Now, if this happens at a critical time, say July 4th yesterday, and we have to close our pool, that impacts our citizens. So back then we started to purchase key equipment, impellers and motors that we know are going to fail. So all of our impellers, all of our mowers, and all of our pools, we have a backup. So when it goes down, we can change it within a couple hours and have minimal impact on closing. So a couple other things the maintenance division did is they redid the police training center floor, and they've gone around to several buildings. It shows the golf course here, and are putting LED lights in where there's fluorescent lights now, which is a cost savings and also an energy savings to the city. Our Senior Recreation Center. Senior Recreation Center has 5 full-time staff members, 10 part-time staff members, and 94 volunteers. Those volunteers give us a little under 5,000 volunteers in 2021, and that's lower than normal. We're normally around 6,000, which will probably end up this year. Attendance, the Park Center currently has 677 members currently attending at different times. Of those, 33% are male, 67% are female, and the average age is 75. Our daily attendance varies from 300 to 800. The busiest day of the week is Wednesday, and I'm sure you all know why, because of bingo. We have bingo on Wednesday. And then Thursday nights, when we have the dance program, is our second busiest day. And then several programs, well, many programs that the Senior Rec Center provides. And if you look here, you can see the list. They're all popular. Some of our most popular are our charter trips, for example, down to Payson for their salmon fry. And I think it's important to understand, without the Senior Rec Center, without these programs, many, if not most of these seniors would not have the opportunity to do what they're doing. So we serve a very important segment of our population.
Before we leave that, what percentage, and I know you had it, but I didn't, what percentage is from Murray and that uses the Senior Rec Center?
Yes, I do.
I know you had that, but I
Let me go
Missed it.
back here. Okay, here we go. Non-resident. Female is 31%. Non-resident male. No, that's not true. Let me find it here. Looks like a little less than half are non-residents.
Are non-resident. So most are.
Most are resident, but really no. We get a lot of seniors from outside of the city, from Salt Lake County area and from Sandy area that come to the Senior Rec Center.
I know from Taylorsville as well. Okay. Interesting. Thanks.
Cemetery. So the cemetery employs 4 full-time employees. They right now this year they have one part-time employee. They would like more, but they're one area that's still struggling to find part-time employees. Just some facts, quick facts about the cemetery. It's 25 acres. First burial was in 1878. There's a little over 18,000 total burials, 190 burials in 2021. We have 201 niche spaces available. I think you all know, our burial plots are sold out. We have no burial plots available. Our Cultural Arts Division has 2 full-time employees, and then there's one other, Rowan, who's our museum assistant. She's part-time. Here's a pie chart of where their time was spent in 2021. You can see the amphitheater, amphitheater, arts education are the 2 biggest on the pie chart. The Arts Division or Cultural Arts has 2 different advisory boards, the Arts Advisory Board and the History Advisory Board. I mentioned those 2. They're different than most of our boards in the city. They're very active, involved boards, both of them. Arts education is a big thing that we do as well. After school musicals, storytelling, haunted tales, secondary art shows, and tours of the museum and the cemetery. Murray City Museum, I'm sure you're aware that we're getting ready to move the museum over to the mansion, hoping to have that ready to move about the same time the City Hall is done. And I think you're well aware of the Murray Theater and where we're at there. Arts in the Park. So Arts in the Park, we offer family night concerts, 12 a year. Children's matinee, 7 concerts. Lunch concerts, 7 concerts. You can see the numbers there. The attendance at the family night concert is a little over 1,000. Children's matinee is a little over 1,100. And lunch concerts is just under 1,000. The amphitheater, in this year we have 27 events, including 3 musicals, 18 performances, 1 free sing-along that if you didn't go, you've already missed that. 5 concerts, 1 dance performance, and 2 instrumental and performances. Murray Fun Days, which was yesterday. That is a great thing we do. We're always relieved when it's over because it went very well yesterday. There's a lot of things that happen on Fun Days, some of which I'm sure you're aware of, and some you may not be. The sunrise service, the parade, which you were in, daytime entertainment, chalk art contest. Our chalk art contest, I was talking to Kat earlier, it's amazing how many people attended that yesterday. Evening concert was well attended. Fireworks, of course, was well attended. I don't know how I missed it, but our car show's not on here. Car show has quickly gotten to be one of the main attractions on the 4th of July. Yesterday we had 250 cars. So we get a segment of the population that comes down to our Fun Days for the car show that I don't believe go to anything else. They just come for the car show, and then of course there's those that go to everything.
Do you have an idea of what it costs us to put on Murray Fun Days?
I can tell you that you budgeted, we upped it to $50,000 in our budget this year for direct costs, but that doesn't include the cost of
The staff.
labor and staff and the police and fire.
So what, like the fireworks display, what does that cost?
Fireworks comes out of that account. Fireworks this year cost us $15,000.
$15,000.
The entertainment last night, if you saw the entertainment, that was $4,000.
Kim, they said that the car show was the highest number of cars that they've ever had. Do you know what to attribute that to? Why?
I am
Because
amazed
it was
at
really good.
the number of cars that and it just continues to grow. I don't know what to attribute that to because there's a lot of car shows throughout the
know.
valley on that day.
Yeah.
Logan has a huge car show that a lot of real avid car nuts go to. So I don't know, but it is.
Yeah.
I will say in the car club community, Murray's the well sought after. It has the most trees.
It's a nice place.
It's
to
a
go.
nice place to park your car and not have to have shade. It's cool. So for a car club owner or car owner, it's the best place. So that in itself is very popular.
Yeah. And our car show, we were trying to remember how long ago we started the car show, and it's not been that long ago. It's been about 10 years ago, 9 or 10 years ago, and it started out very, very small. But it is popular.
Well, my husband loves it, so.
There are people that like the car show better than the parade, and there are people that like the parade better than the car show. So, yes, we have both. Other things that they do here are listed here: residents on display, get to the river festival, juried art show, candy display window, drama camp, Robinson's Christmas sing along. Our golf division. So our golf division, we have two areas there. One is the golf pro that has 2 full-time employees. And then our golf maintenance, they have 4 full-time employees. 73,350 rounds in 2021. If we continue at the pace we're at now, we will have more this year. You can see that we have a picture of the golf carts, the new golf carts that we have. Those are working great. They're electric carts. John told me just today that 50-something holes he can get out of an average cart, which he's excited for, and the life of the carts and the batteries are supposed to be a lot longer than in the past.
I get questions about how can we justify having a golf course when we have such a dearth of water. So, and I tell them it's recycled and can you give any help on how to answer that question?
Yeah. So we water the golf course with 2 different sources. One is the runoff water from underneath I-215. And when that runs dry or is not adequate, we then pull from a well that is located at Germania Park and pump through the Jordan River Parkway that is not culinary quality. It's very high in salts, which is why you don't see a lot of trees on the golf course. We can't grow trees because of the salt level. Now, I'll tell you something that Dave told me a few weeks ago, if you promise not to tell anyone, and we don't know why, but we've got more water coming off the freeway than we've had forever. We're in a dry year. We don't know if there's some canal water that's being dumped into there or what it is, but his water coming off of the freeway this year is there's more water and the quality is a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
We don't use culinary water to irrigate the golf course.
Yeah, and I told them that, but I wasn't sure, what the water source was, so that's helpful.
So,
thank you.
Thank you. And then our golf maintenance, we just a picture here of a new bunker on hole 13, new sand bunker, and that was put in just this year to try and get golfers to aim towards the hole and not go into the other hole next to it. So.
I will say it. My husband loves going around and collecting golf balls because I don't know why, but on that course, everybody loses the most golf balls there. I don't know if that's because they're just around.
I don't know. I don't use I lose a lot, but I don't use the nice ones.
Yeah, no. But I was gonna say the golf carts are pretty. They're really nice. So I think that was a great investment. And I tell John, right? John, this all the time. I'm like,
John Pearson.
You guys definitely push people fast on that course. So we do get a lot of players, and it's good when we're out there because I don't want to be out there for hours because there's not a lot of shade.
True.
So.
And you hit something on the head. The golf carts are a lot more important than people realize. Murray Parkway has a very good reputation as one of the better golf courses in the valley. And part of that is our golf carts.
Yeah.
If we have golf carts with ripped seats or that quit halfway through or look like they've been around for a long time, then the perception of the quality of our course goes down. So
Yeah, and it's nice to have a cart for the shade,
True.
really, because of that. So thank you.
okay, and the last slide, we thank the Mayor Hells and City Council for your support and all that you do for us. Any questions?
Just a comment. Thanks for doing such a great job and being so responsive. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. We appreciate all you do.
Sorry that the timing is the day after your biggest day of
Yeah, who
work
did-
yesterday. I don't know how we accidentally did that.
Well, I can
But
tell you.
we're glad to see you again.
I can tell you how that happened, and I take blame or credit for that, I guess, because you had me in June and I was on vacation.
So we didn't do that to you.
It
Oh, I
wasn't-
feel
it
so
wasn't
relieved
you.
that that wasn't
you.
us. Okay.
Craig from the police department agreed to switch dates with me, so it's my own fault.
Okay. Well, thank you for everything you do. And yesterday was fantastic, and programs are always great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, moderate income housing with Jared and Zach. Absolutely. Just don't let the other department heads hear.
Okay. Thanks for having us today. So I'm gonna fly through this pretty quick so we can get to any questions or anything you'd like. So why we're here today, or I guess where are we? Sorry, I flipped my slides. Where are we today? So back early in the year, HB 462 passed at the state. We've had May discussions and June discussions with both you and the Planning Commission. Received a lot of good feedback, really good conversations there. So today we're here on July 5th for kind of our final discussion before we start the working towards adopting phase. Unless you guys come back and say, no, come back, I want to talk about something else. Then we'll change some stuff. But we're on kind of a tight schedule here. So July 5th is tonight's discussion. July 7th, I have this exact same discussion with the Planning Commission. And then we move right on to August 4th, which is when I need to have a document drafted and ready to go for a public hearing for the Planning Commission. And then obviously September is the City Council month. So just in preparation for the October 1st report to the state that we have to have done. So why we're here. So as we kind of discussed a little bit, May and June, we discussed the modern income housing generally, discussed the House Bill 462, and then brought forward menu items to kind of go over. And I want to thank you all for providing the comments and information back to us. That was really helpful. So tonight we're here to review kind of our proposed selections, see if you guys have any glaring concerns or anything like that before I start going deep into the writing and stuff. So our next after this would be craft exact language and firm up implementation strategies, and then work on our conducting public hearings and report to the state. So with that, what we're moving forward with. So we're not going to be changing the goal of the 2017 Modern Income Housing Plan, which is provide a diversity of housing through a range of types and development patterns to expand the moderate income housing options available to existing and future residents. So we have narrowed it down through your guys' discussions and bringing forward those information. It was narrowed down to 10, and then we picked essentially 8 of those, 5 that we're going to move forward with 3 potential alternatives. So you can see here the 5. So if you'll remember, we have one that has to be chosen, which is number 5, develop and adopt station area plans. And then that was number, I think it was number 3, we had to choose from a list of 3. So that was amend land use regulations to allow for higher density or new moderate income residential development in commercial or mixed use zones near major transit investment corridors. So the remainder are those 3 that you guys found the most, you and the Planning Commission, I believe, found the most merit in. It actually came out quite clear on all of that. So the first one, demonstrate investment in the rehabilitation or expansion of an infrastructure that facilitates the construction of moderate income housing. 2, create or allow for and reduce regulations related to internal or detached accessory dwelling units in residential zones. And then number 4, implement a mortgage assistance program for employees of the municipality, an employer that provides contracted services to the municipality, or any other public employer that operates within the municipality. I'm saying that a lot. It's the state's fault. So those are the ones that we recommend moving forward with, those 5. If there are some that you may not be comfortable with or whatever, we have 3 other options, which are this first one, demonstrate utilization of a moderate income housing set aside from a community reinvestment agency, redevelopment agency, or community development and renewal agency to create or subsidize moderate income housing. 2, demonstrate creation of or participation in a community land trust program for moderate income housing. And number 3, implement zoning incentives for moderate income units in new developments. Now, I do want to caveat that we are not doing these things. These are things that we're still doing. We're just figuring out what we have to make implementation strategies and an implementation plan for these 5. And by doing, we'll continue to do the other 3. We're doing that stuff. It just isn't going to be so specifically stated with hard dates and deadlines on things. So,
Zach,
yeah.
Could you expand a little bit on number 3?
3 on
Implement zoning incentives for moderate income units in new developments. What does that mean? The incentives. What? Give me some idea.
Typically, that's density bonuses. So, for example, a couple meetings ago, we kind of talked about our multifamily zones,
Right.
for example. So we have the RM10 zone, for example. So that allows for a base density of 7 units per acre. And we have a zoning incentive. Well, do you remember how density incentive bonus, which if you meet certain criteria, you can get an additional 1, 2, or 3 units per acre. So up to that 10 units per acre. And that's kind of what that would be, I would anticipate. And one of those requirements in that is it has to be a percentage of your project has to be moderate or low income for anywhere from 25 to 50 years. So it can change. So that was one of the things that we looked at potentially going forward with and, modifying that, because right now there are so many different things you have to meet in order to get that density bonus. Jared said he's seen it once in 10 years. I've not seen it in 4 years. Anybody move forward on anything with that density incentive bonus? They just pretty much just write it off completely.
So to get any bonus, so they go for 0. They just go for the base.
They just
density.
go for the base because it's so complicated to get that additional bonus. So does that kind of clear it up? Or
Yeah, it helps. It does. Yeah, it kind of does.
okay.
And I just wanted to jump back to sorry, Rosa.
No, sorry. I was just going to say these are alternatives. So if we didn't
I get.
accept the first parts, these ones would then substitute one of the
Well,
other ones.
it's not necessarily if you don't accept the 5, but if there's one you don't like and want to substitute
Right.
for one of the alternatives, that's fine.
Okay, yes,
The whole menu item is up to you guys to decide, but these are what we're recommending, these 5. And if there's something we would prefer you to pick from one of these 3,
Okay.
is kind of how we look at it.
And I'll just stay. I'm comfortable with the first 5. So
Perfect. That's good.
Great.
that's
And I just wanted to highlight the what you mentioned of we have to pick 5 so that they can be detailed and sent to the state, but that doesn't mean we're not doing others or we're not interested in others
Correct.
or that kind of thing. So I just wanted to kind of highlight that.
Yes, exactly. 100%. Yeah, we are definitely moving forward with other things to support that moderate income housing. This is just to meet that state requirement is really what we're doing. Okay, so implementation plans. We didn't talk about this a lot. I may have mentioned it a couple times, but in accordance with HB 462, we have to have an implementation strategy. These have to actually have dates and actionable steps to them. It's something that is very unique for here in Utah. We don't typically have what, now that I'm bringing it up, I can't remember the term. It's where planning and zoning, or zoning and general plan, consistency, like a consistency requirement between a general plan and a zoning ordinance. That's very unique for Utah. They haven't done that in the past, where your general plan has to have actionable steps that inform your zoning code. Other states do it all the time. But this is the first kind of step into that. So having this implementation portion is kind of unique. It's been kind of a fun little challenge to get through. So the following slides are going to just go over the 5 recommended menu items and preliminary implementation strategies. These are subject to change, and I welcome discussion on these if something seems too aggressive or if we're not being aggressive enough, things like that. So for the first one, demonstrate investment in the rehabilitation or expansion of infrastructure that facilitates the construction of moderate income housing. So here I've got 4 different things. I know that through just some of the discussions I've had with Jared, Murray Power is planning to reevaluate some of their planning processes. So right now I just have a broad date of 12/31/2027. That's the furthest I've gone out is 5 years. So work with Murray Power to develop a plan to increase power capacity by 12/31/2027 in areas determined by city leaders to help facilitate the addition of more housing. I do know next year Murray City Water is going to be updating the general plan. So I specifically put in there, collaborate with Murray City Water and identify areas of opportunity to increase capacity there. I know that they will be working on that early next year, I think. So this is a really easy goal to achieve. This one I added last minute. So in coordination with Murray City Parks and Recreation, review the 2020 Parks and Recreation Master Plan and update the City Council on progress of the 10-year plan by 12/31/2025. So that in the Murray City Parks and Recreation Master Plan, they have a 10-year horizon for their master plan. So I think it's important to kind of within 5 years, kind of check back and see how things are going. There are things that were in that. I was part of that process, helping to develop that plan. And I think it's also important because there's the physical structure, infrastructure that you have, water, power, sewer, things like that. But there's also the social infrastructure, which are things like parks and, police and well-being, things like that, all kind of that social infrastructure. So I wanted to include something like that as well. And then lastly, work with Murray City Wastewater to develop a plan to increase capacity by 12/31/2027. They just did this, I believe, last year. So I don't anticipate that one. I just put out as far as I could at this point because they just completed theirs. So any questions on this one so far? Any questions?
I have a question. Are there any incentives for this portion or any part of the bill, like from the state?
The incentives in like monetary stuff to help us? Not really. No. There is money to help with the very last of the items, which is the station area plans. but more on that to come for sure.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
okay. So moving on to the next one. So create or allow for and reduce regulations related to internal or detached accessory dwelling units in residential zones. So this one I've really just laid out by the end of next year, review the regulations that we have on the books right now and see if there's changes that can be done, and specifically whether to potentially allow a second ADU on properties. Midvale has started doing this, where they allow an internal accessory dwelling unit and an external accessory dwelling unit on their properties. Review the setback requirements for detached ADUs. That's always been kind of a hindrance for us as a city. We have really strict setback requirements for detached ADUs. And then also consider allowing second stories for appropriately located accessory structures when that second story is an ADU. Questions?
Zach.
Yeah.
I have concerns about reducing the regulations,
Okay.
and particularly with parking.
Mhm.
So will you just kind of make sure you let us know what?
Oh, definitely. Any regulations would have to come before you anyway.
I
Any
know.
changes in the zoning would be. And in all honesty, we that's one thing I don't think we would change. The state mandated one parking stall required for an accessory dwelling unit, and you can't do more than that, at least for internal. And I think when we did those code changes, I don't anticipate taking that below one for sure. So
Okay.
I wouldn't see that at all.
Yeah, I think we just need to be very careful about that. So.
Definitely. I agree. Okay, moving along. So amend land use regulations to allow for higher density or new moderate income residential development in commercial or mixed use zones near major transit investment corridors. Now this one's kind of the tricky one. So these, like I said, these are all preliminary. So we'll kind of have those discussions. Review the MCMU zone by, I didn't specify a date. I just have X's in there right now, and determine whether allowing for substantially increased density provided that a portion of the project is developed as moderate income housing is appropriate. Next one is conduct a review of the center's mixed use zone to identify opportunities for amendments to allow for moderate income housing. This one is a little bit firmed up because I know that it is going to be reviewed probably by the end of next year for sure, is review the MCCD zone by 12/31/2023 and recommend changes to help facilitate moderate income housing. I know that the council has expressed reviewing the MCCD zone again to kind of check on things. So I think that's a pretty easy goal to reach. Excuse me. And then research and draft an appropriate mixed use zone or zones for use in the Fashion Place West area by 12/31/2024 and adopt mixed use zoning for implementation in the Fashion Place West area by 7/1/2025. This corresponds to largely with the Fashion Place West's small area plan, which is going to be required to be updated with the small area plans that we have to do in conjunction with this modern income housing stuff. This is the only station area that does not have mixed use zoning around it currently. So that's why it's that's why it's in here. Because Murray Central already has mixed use zoning. Murray North has the TOD zoning. So this is really the only one that doesn't have it at this point.
Can you give me the location of that? What's the address?
Of Fashion Place West?
Yeah.
It's about Winchester Street and about 3rd West. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Because I know there's been some citizens that have come to me and talked to me about that
Mhm.
area.
Yep.
And they're very concerned about it.
For sure. All right. So on to, I think, number 4. Implement a mortgage assistance program for employees of the municipality, an employer that provides contracted services, or any other public employer that operates within the municipality. So this one, I don't think Brenda is here today. But this, we've been talking back and forth. I think West Jordan just implemented something similar to this, a down payment assistance program. We've been emailing a couple times trying to get some information on this. So preliminary implementation plan, by the end of this year, CED staff will work with the finance department to assess scope and feasibility of a program. And then by 12/31/2023, city staff will present a proposal for a down payment assistance program to the city leaders. So this is not saying that you will commit to adopting one, but this is saying that we will at least show you the options and show you what it looks like, what it may cost, where those funds going to be coming from. That was one thing that's really important, is to check, how are we going to fund something like this? This is really the only one that's going to probably, I don't want to say significantly, but it will impact the city budget or a portion of the city budget at some point. The other ones really are more ordinance related and things that we're working on. But this one will potentially have an impact. But this also was one across the board. Every single person that we talked to wanted.
But if you look at it, it says on the bottom of it, it says financial assistance through grants. So there could possibly be some grants out there that we could apply for.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we want to explore a lot
or
of those
interest-free
options.
loans, for
Yep.
example.
Yep.
I really like this one.
Yep. So this is stuff that we have to kind of do on the
Yeah.
background to figure out how that's going to work.
Yeah.
So
I have a question.
sure.
Is there a point within the city that you envision we wouldn't have anything available for staff or city employees to be able to buy? I mean, I know the market's kind of, it's
Well,
in a weird
that's-
place, but
That's kind of interesting. So it
Please
depends on
tell.
how the program is set up. Because you could say, that if you're getting a down payment assistance, it has to be for a house in Murray. Or you could say you're an employee of Murray, we'll still give you down payment assistance for a house anywhere in Salt Lake County or, Utah County, wherever. So it just kind of depends on how you set up the program.
and do we kind of have that freedom to set that up ourselves, or is this
Yes.
okay?
Yep. This
Okay.
is definitely something that as I would leave to Brenda to probably, me and Brenda will have to work that out on how that gets set up. She's already been talking to the people at West Jordan on how they're kind of how they have it set up. And, I think they contract with somebody that actually manages the program and everything like that. So
So let me ask you that. Then that was my follow-up question. Would it be something like an organization that we would work with, like NeighborWorks, that could assist with that because they already have a program that we
Potentially.
fund with?
it could be for
Okay.
sure. That
Okay.
definitely could be a possibility. So
Okay,
Yeah.
just trying to piece all those
yeah,
pieces together. Thank you.
it's definitely, it takes a lot to try to piece these together, especially when you're coming up with these implementation plans. You're like, is this am I going too fast? Am I not going fast enough? It's great. So, all right. So last one. Yes. Okay. Develop and adopt a station area plan in accordance with section 10(9)A 403.1. So, preliminary implementation plan is to hit the goal as required by the state, which is by 12/31/2025, we'll have adopted station area plans that meet the requirements of state statute for all currently active light rail and commuter rail stations within Murray City. So we have a meeting with WFRC and some additional stuff to start that process for Murray North specifically. That's the only one that does not have a station area plan at this point. So that, I believe, is going to be the most amount of work. So we do anticipate to have that be adopted by the end of next year. That's our goal. And let me back up a little bit. This is where the state has provided funding, is for these station area plans. That's why we're meeting with WFRC. They're starting I believe today you can start doing applications for funding.
What is WFRC?
Oh, I apologize. It's the Wasatch Front Regional Council.
Okay.
It's the local metropolitan planning organization, which kind of looks at everything regionally. So, yeah, between them and UTA and Utah Department of Transportation, they'll be giving out grants to cities to do their station area plans. And they're pretty aggressive on getting those funded and moving. I know that WFRC's hired, I think, 2 additional people just to help with these station area plans, because every city has to adopt these by 2025. So, I'll go back. So 12/31/23 is for Murray North, or the Fire Clay Station. The following year, Fashion Place West amended to meet state law. And lastly, Murray Central amended to reflect state statute. So that is really it. I just kind of flew through those. Those are our initial stabs at an implementation strategy. Those will get refined a little bit more further. You probably won't see me for about a month and a half. So, so congratulations. So as we kind of get through these and get through a public hearing with the Planning Commission, things like that, and unless there's something that really concerns any of you.
Any comments or questions on any of the 5? Yeah, it was
Perfect.
great.
Well, it's interesting when I look through this packet and the previous packet that you gave us. It's interesting that everything that I marked down and I gave it to you, they ended up here.
Mm.
So I really don't have any questions.
Okay.
If I did, I would have called you,
Okay.
you know. But I don't see any problems with it. The only one that I was really disappointed in, that it didn't make it in there. I have to find it. But I know it's not feasible. And it's a great idea, but I really like to develop a moderate income housing project for residents who are disabled or 55 years or older.
Sure.
I'm in that, 55.
Yeah.
But I know it's not feasible, and it's a good idea, and it's great that it was thrown in there.
Yeah,
But,
for sure.
after you relook at things, I understand that. And
Yep.
I have absolutely no problems with any of those that you
Perfect.
have come to the conclusion on.
Great.
Thank you for your work.
Yeah. Thank you guys for listening to me for the past 2 months.
Well, thank you for giving us the background and
Yes.
the ground floor and the opportunity to look through all those different choices. But I think we all feel good about the 5 it looks like. And
Okay.
I think
Yeah,
you
I
have-
just want to say thank you, both of you, for meeting with me and talking with
Yep,
me and going
definitely.
through line by line. I know it was kind of fast, but
Yeah.
I
No,
think
that's
I was
okay.
prepared, and you guys really helped us through that. And it doesn't feel as heavy as it did at the legislature this year. This whole
That's good.
bill and the conversation.
Then I've
So I-
done my job well.
Yes, I was just about to say you've done your job well, and you've really gotten to the weed of it. And I know you've done a lot of work and a lot of networking, and you've had a lot of conversations to really come to understand where I think, in comparison to other cities, I think they're just barely starting there. So
Yeah.
thank you so much to both of you. And
I'm
Zach,
such a
I know.
policy wonk. I check all the cities' like agendas
Mhm.
to see, because I want to see, like, honestly, I don't know of another city that has gone through the process that we have, where I've coming before you guys as a body and the Planning Commission as a body to make sure that we're getting these answers right. The only place I know of that's done anything is West Jordan. They're pretty much already done and adopted. But every other city I've looked at, they haven't even started these conversations. And I don't want you guys to feel like we're forcing something down your throat that you don't have an understanding of. So that's always kind of what my goal is there. So,
Well, and I'll just say this lastly. One of the conversations I did have up there is that Murray really is ahead of the curve, and we've kind of led an example in a lot of what they're asking for. And I think it really goes to show that we continue to be ahead of the curve as a city, and it's because of people like you, and our staff that really see it and see into the future.
We try.
Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah, thank
Can
you.
I
guys.
ask one more question?
Of course.
Do you think NeighborWorks is going to be involved a lot in some of these developments? Do you see NeighborWorks being more involved?
I'll let Jared because he's on the board.
Okay.
That's a good way to segue or circle back actually to Kat's first point in that this is our 5 recommended keep our plan in line with what the state has required. And because we have such a short time frame to do that in, we want to keep that as simple as possible. But we do lots of things for moderate income housing that may not make it into the details of the plan because they have to have some specifics. So as NeighborWorks, for example, looks at land trusts, from the conversations we've had as an RDA board, we definitely want to be looking into that. But are we ready to say, here's our implementation strategy and our benchmarks and commit to those things? Probably not as ready for that as we are for some of these other things. So yes, I see NeighborWorks being involved in moderate income housing in the city in more ways as we move forward. With a couple of these, yeah, they might be a good candidate for the to look at for the employee assistance program for the down payments, et cetera. They'd be a great vehicle there, or they might have some ideas for that. We don't know for sure, but more involved, absolutely. Specifically with these 5, maybe not as much.
Thank you.
That makes sense.
Great. Well, thank you, Zach. Thank you, Jared.
Thank you.
And now you get to do the fun writing.
Yes, lots of writing.
Get into it. Okay. That is
Just-
yeah, go ahead.
One more thing, I'm wondering, when do we approach low income?
So how low do you mean are you talking about the AMI? How much of this affects? Sorry, Zach,
You're fine. Take
do you mean how much of this affects 80% of the AMI versus 50% versus 30%?
Yes.
The really, really difficult stuff is the 30% and 50%. A lot of the things that we're talking about doing, Zach mentioned, have to do with ordinance type work, making it easier for people to create housing, making it easier for developers to include moderate income housing units in their developments or incentivize them to do that.
Right.
As we look at what those incentives are and how far we can go with them, then we'll know whether it's going to produce 50% and 30%. By creating the states, I'm going to go as far as to say, I think the state's thrust here is to say, cities, you need to make it easier for people to create density around the transit stations and in these corridors and in your cities in general. Because the more units we have, then the supply is greater and the affordability comes down. That doesn't get to 50 and 30%. That's a problem that existed before there was a housing shortage, et cetera. So you get those levels with subsidies and with really incentivized, subsidized units in developments. And we'll be looking at some of that with this. How low those incomes go to be impacted, we'll have to see as we get to how much incentive we can provide. It's harder to work out. So it'll take more than just this adoption to know if we get to those levels.
I know. I guess that's my concern. It's kind of like we're not dealing with it.
Right.
Yeah.
And Jared, I've kind of heard this from other people is, what is the conversation even with developers? I know developers want to hit at market, but are we seeking developers who will come in and say, look, we do want to include low income. We want to include that moderate income and we want it to be affordable for everyone.
Yeah.
Are there developers out there? Have they approached us as a
we
city?
have relationships with a couple of them and we've built projects with a couple of them and we'll probably continue to do that. The development companies that look for the low income housing tax credit programs to do. We have one of those coming in the Fireclay area soon for 55 and older. So for a specific segment of the population, and that'll be great. But that's what it takes to get to those levels of 50. And I think that one might get you to 50% of the AMI for the older citizens that can live in that facility. But it's hard to get there. You don't get there without federal monies like LIHTC programs. We do have relationships with a couple of those developers, and there's not as many of those developers as there are for the market rate stuff because there's more money to be made in the market rate stuff. But that's just the reality
mixed income developments.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes so much sense. But anyway, that's for another conversation. I get that, but
Right. But
really
those are all
need
things.
to have that.
Yeah, but I think it's important that you mentioned, Rosalba, that at the legislature you have that conversation. We're a little bit ahead of the curve. And yes, that's because of things that staff has done, but it's also because the council and the city in general has supported those ideas, because it's important to Murray City that people have affordable housing. You're ahead of the curve for that same reason. Long before the state was telling everyone you have to have a moderate income housing element in your general plan. You can't just have a plan that you put on a shelf. It has to be part of your general plan that you're forced to look at all the time. We had already done that. This city had already done that. So Murray needs to take credit for that. It's important to you as a council. So we'll keep looking at anything we can do outside of this plan as well. We'll keep looking at programs. Creating mixed income neighborhoods is a great goal.
I think
And we'll keep trying to find ways to make that happen.
Thank you.
Thanks for those questions. That was great. All right. If there are no objections or further comments, we are adjourned until City Council.